In the rolling hills of Tuscany, where the sun spills gold over vineyards and stone villages, a child was born who would one day weave art, science, and invention into a legacy that still dazzles us. Leonardo da Vinci came into the world on April 15, 1452, in a modest home near the town of Vinci, or perhaps, as some whisper, in the tiny hamlet of Anciano nearby. 30 miles from Florence, this quiet corner of what we now call Italy cradled a boy whose name would echo through history. His father, Ser Piero da Vinci, carried the title Ser, a mark of his role as a notary, a legal scribe of the upper middle class. The da Vinci family had rooted themselves in Vinci for generations, adopting its name as their own, a custom of the time that tied identity to place. Ser Piero, born in 1426, was a man of documents and deals, often traveling to Florence to ink contracts and seal fortunes. Leonardo's mother, though, is a figure shrouded in mystery. Known simply as Caterina, she was likely a young woman of humble means, perhaps a servant or peasant. Recent whispers among scholars paint her as Caterina di Meo Lippi, a teenage orphan from the Vinci countryside, while others, like Italian professor Carlo Vecchi, spin a bolder tale. She might have been an enslaved woman from the Caucasus, freed by Ser Piero in a document dated 1452. Whatever her origins, their union was unconventional, unmarried, a scandal for Piero's respectable standing. Yet they embraced their son's arrival without shame, a choice that shaped his path in ways they couldn't foresee. Leonardo's birth as an illegitimate child carried weight. In a world where lineage opened doors, his status slammed them shut. He couldn't inherit his father's notary trade or claim the privileges of a legitimate heir. Historians muse that this outsider's lot might have been his secret fuel, pushing him to carve a life beyond the ordinary. His first year was spent with Caterina, her warmth his earliest world. But soon he was whisked to the home of his paternal grandparents, Antonio and Lucia, an elderly pair in their 80s and 60s. Ser Piero, busy in Florence, remarried and built a sprawling family, 4 wives, 11 children, while Caterina wed another and bore 5 more. Leonardo, though, grew distant from both, a solitary figure in a household of aging guardians. Education, too, was a road half blocked. Wealthy sons studied Latin, the key to universities and elite professions, but Leonardo's illegitimacy barred him from such halls. Instead, he learned the basics at home, reading and writing in Italian, strumming the lyre's strings, and mastering arithmetic for practical use. His young uncle Francesco, a farmer, taught him the rhythms of the land, how seeds split soil, how streams carved valleys. These lessons weren't from books, but from the earth itself, water wheels groaning, pottery kilns glowing. Nature became his first teacher, planting seeds of curiosity that would bloom into a lifelong chase for answers. By 1464, at age 12, life shifted again. Ser Piero's first wife, Albiera, had died, and he'd wed Francesca di Ser Giuliano Landradini, Leonardo's second stepmother. With his grandparents gone, the boy joined his father in Florence, a city of 100,000 souls, a cauldron of art and ideas. This was the Renaissance, a word coined centuries later by Jules Michelet in 1855, meaning rebirth. It was a surge of energy after the so-called Dark Ages, a revival of Greek and Roman brilliance tailored to a new age. In Italy, it stirred dreams of Rome's past glory, a patriotic thread woven into the era's creations. Yet scholars remind us this rebirth was Eurocentric. While Europe stirred, Asia and Islamic empires had long thrived in knowledge and craft. Italy then wasn't a nation, but a patchwork of city-states, Florence, Milan, Venice, locked in rivalry and war. The Papal States, ruled by the Pope's iron hand, clashed with urban elites, while power split between old feudal lords and new bourgeois tycoons who'd struck gold in trade and banking. Florence buzzed with this tension. Its streets, mapped by historians, mingled nobles and merchants in tight-knit neighborhoods, a holdover from feudal days when safety trumped wealth gaps. Here, status was flaunted not with swords but with art, sculptures, paintings, jewels, tokens of taste and power that fueled the city's rise as a Renaissance heart. For Leonardo, Florence was a revelation. Walled and wary, it locked its gates at dusk, its people scarred by plague and famine, yet its squares, the old market, the public plazas, thrummed with life. Political plots brewed alongside gossip, and young Leonardo watched it all, sketching faces in the crowd, noting how a frown creased or a laugh lifted. These were his first canvases, human and alive. The city's pulse was shaped by families like the Medici, once peasant farmers from Tuscany who climbed to power through banking. Cosimo de' Medici, born in 1389, had cemented their name, backing Filippo Brunelleschi's dome for Florence's cathedral, a marvel finished in 1436. His heirs, like Lorenzo, kept the arts aflame, a lifeline for talents like Leonardo. At 14, in 1466, Leonardo's path sharpened. His illegitimacy barred him from law, but Ser Piero's ties opened another door, an apprenticeship with Andrea del Verrocchio, a Florentine master. Born in 1435, Verrocchio was the Medici's sculptor, a goldsmith turned bronze caster who ran a bustling bottega, an art workshop churning out everything from statues to theater props. He'd crafted Cosimo's tomb in San Lorenzo and the bronze Christ and St. Thomas for Orson Michele, a 16-year labor unveiled in 1483. Trained by painter Fra Filippo Lippi, a Medici favorite known for frescoes and a scandalous affair, Verrocchio blended craft and vision, a perfect forge for Leonardo's talents. In the bottega, Leonardo learned by doing. He ground pigments, mixed tempera, egg yolk binding colors, carved stone, cast metal, and sketched endlessly. Some say he painted the angel in Verrocchio's Baptism of Christ circa 1472, its soft glow outshining the master's sharper lines. In Tobias and the Angel, circa 1470, a lively fish and prancing dog bear his touch, hints of a skill that awed or irked Verrocchio, who some claim abandoned painting for sculpture after seeing it. Leonardo soaked up more: geometry for perspective, mechanics from tools, music from the lyre. This wasn't just craft. It was a lens to see the world. By 1472, at 20, he'd finished his apprenticeship and joined the company of St. Luke, Florence's Painters' Guild, a rite of passage to independence. Yet he lingered in Verrocchio's shop for 5 more years, honing his trade. His first solo work, The Annunciation, 1472 to 1475, now in the Uffizi, shows a young hand, uneven tones, but a love of nature shining through. Unlike peers who backdrop trees as props, Leonardo made them mood setters, a trait deepening in Ginevra de' Benci. See, 1474. This portrait of a banker's daughter, perhaps a wedding gift or a nod from Lorenzo de' Medici, pairs her somber face with juniper sprigs, her name's echo. Its reverse, beauty adorns virtue, hints at a Venetian admirer's commission, though proof stays elusive. In 1477, Leonardo opened his own workshop. Commissions trickled in, a nativity for San Bernardo's chapel in 1478. But he left it undone, a pattern emerging. The work passed to Domenico Ghirlandaio, then Filippino Lippi. Patrons were scarce, yet he took an apprentice, Paolo da Firenze, a marquetry whiz who later fled amid shady ties. In 1481, monks from San Donato commissioned Adoration of the Magi, a sprawling sketch of watercolor and charcoal. Due in 30 months, it too stayed unfinished, now a treasure in the Uffizi after 2010's restoration. A figure on its edge might be Leonardo himself, tall, blue-eyed, striking, say the tales. That year, opportunity called elsewhere. Lorenzo de' Medici sent him to Milan, perhaps as a diplomatic gift to Duke Ludovico Sforza, with a horse-headed lyre in hand. Or maybe Sforza summoned him as a musician. Either way, in September 1481, Leonardo left Florence for Milan's court, a new stage for his restless mind. Here, part one ends, with a 29-year-old poised to blend art, science, and war into a Renaissance legend. In 1481, Leonardo da Vinci stepped into Milan, a city of 80,000 simmering under Duke Ludovico Sforza's ambitious grip. At 29, he arrived with a silver lyre shaped like a horse's skull, perhaps a gift from Lorenzo de' Medici, perhaps his own bold pitch. Ludovico, who'd seized power from his nephew in 1480, craved a Milan to rival Florence's shine. Leonardo's role began as court musician, but his notebook soon spilled with grander promises. Craft a catapult to hurl mountains, forge a gun with many mouths, build a steel beast to roll over foes. These weren't boasts, they were blueprints, and by 1489, Sforza named him an engineer. Milan was a forge of war and wonder. In 1489, Ludovico tasked Leonardo with a bronze horse statue to honor his father, Francesco, a colossus to dwarf all others. Leonardo sketched hooves and sinews, listing mold a clay giant. But war's hunger stole the bronze for cannons in 1494. French troops shattered the clay model, yet his notes survived, a testament to dreams unbowed. That year, another apprentice joined him, 10-year-old Giovanni Giacomo Caprotti, dubbed Salai, Little Devil, for his sticky fingers and sly grin. For 30 years, Salai stayed, a companion some say became a lover, inheriting art and land when Leonardo died. In 1495, Ludovico handed Leonardo a wall in the Santa Maria delle Grazie monastery. "Paint the last meal of Christ," he ordered. Over 2 years, the Last Supper took shape. Not a slow fresco, but a daring mix of oil and tempera on dry plaster. Leonardo's list read, "Pose 12 in chaos. Center light on him." Judas sits among the disciples, shadowed, clutching betrayal's coin, while lines converge on Jesus' brow. A perspective trick born from nail a point, trace its rays. Humidity gnawed at it fast. By the 1550s, it flaked. Restorations, like Pinnen Brambilla's 20-year effort in 1999, saved only a fifth of his brushstrokes, yet its soul endures. Milan's wars flared. In 1499, French King Louis XII ousted Ludovico, and Leonardo fled with Salai and mathematician Luca Pacioli, whose 1496 collaboration on Divina Proporzione bore Leonardo's golden ratio sketches. They paused in Mantua, sketching Isabella d'Este, then reached Venice in 1500. Amid Ottoman threats, Leonardo offered, "Design a suit to breathe underwater and sink ships with hidden spikes." Impractical then, his ideas shimmered on paper. By April, he was back in Florence, a city now free of Medici rule after Piero's 1494 blunder, hired as a master of the heroic style. In 1502, Cesare Borgia, Pope Alexander VI's ruthless son, lured him as military engineer. Leonardo's task, map Imola's bones. His compass-drawn plan, a cartographic leap, armed Borgia's conquests. He mused, divert the Arno, starve Pisa, sketching currents and dams, unbuilt but visionary. Florence, victorious over the Medici, commissioned the Battle of Anghiari in 1503, a clash of 1440. Rival Michelangelo took the Battle of Cassina. Leonardo's oil tempera mix faltered, leaving it half done. Michelangelo's was lost to Rome's call. Giorgio Vasari buried both under new walls in the 1660s. That year, Leonardo began the Mona Lisa, perhaps Lisa Gherardini, a merchant's wife, though whispers tie it to others. 4 years grew to a lifetime. He layered oil, noting, soften her smile, make it shift. Her gaze follows a trick of shade the eyes deep. He kept it, a mystery why, uncommissioned or too dear to part with. In 1507, Louis XII, now Milan's lord, named him court artist. Charles d'Amboise, governor from 1506 to 1511, became his patron, inspiring villa plans with gardens and waterworks, echoes of Lorenzo's Poggio Reale, none built, but sketched with love. Anatomy gripped him. Since the 1480s, he'd dissected bodies, 30 by 1510, teeming with Marcantonio della Torre, a Paduan anatomist dead at 30 in 1511. Draw a child in the womb, he wrote, birthing a first in 1512. His 200 sketches mapped veins and bones, driven by see how life bends, not just art's sake. In 1513, he joined Giuliano de' Medici in Rome, hosted at the Vatican under Pope Leo X. Tasked to drain the Pontine marshes, he planned channel the rot away, unused but preserved at Windsor. Rome's high Renaissance hummed, yet patrons eluded him. In 1516, King Francis I of France beckoned. At 64, Leonardo, Salai, and Francesco Melzi, a noble apprentice since 1508, perhaps another love, settled in Clou, a manor near Amboise. Francis, crowned in 1515, paid him to think, talk, create. Leonardo's red chalk self-portrait, circa 1512, shows a lined face, 60-ish, arm shaky from paralysis by 1517, per the Codex Atlanticus, jagged lines. His lists darkened, sketch floods tearing earth, apocalyptic visions of nature's wrath. He sorted his 20,000 pages, 7,000 survive, failing to finish as death loomed. On May 2, 1519, at 67, Leonardo died in Clou. Buried at Saint Florentin, his grave vanished when the church fell in 1802. His will gifted Salai land, Melzi his notes, guardians of a mind that bridged worlds. The Trattato della Pittura, compiled later, spills his creed. Art is science, a divine lens on nature. Water obsessed him. Arno flood sparked, harness its rage. Flight 2. His 1485 parachute, pyramid-shaped, flew in 2000 via Adrian Nicholas. Anatomy, architecture, war machines. His notebooks hum with risks that bore fruit or faded. Leonardo's life was a paradox. Fame in his day, yet half his works unfinished. The Last Supper crumbled from bold mixes. The Mona Lisa stayed his. Illegitimacy shut doors, but freed him to roam. Art, science, engineering, unbound by convention. Restorations blur his originals. Stolen in 1911, recovered in 1913, The Mona Lisa sits in the Louvre, a shadow of its birth. Yet his notebooks reveal more. A man who saw fossils inland and guessed, the sea once drowned this, defying flood tales with observation. What's his measure? A Renaissance man, earned by daring, not polish. Risk defined him, failed paints, abandoned statues, yet each stumble lit a path. Michelangelo rivaled him, brash to Leonardo's quiet elegance, but both shaped an era. Others shone, Raphael, Brunelleschi, but Leonardo's breadth, from womb sketches to war engines, stands lone. His influence swells post-mortem, notebooks unveiling a mind ahead of its tools. Without risk, where's genius? He gambled, lost, won, and left us richer. Today, his spark lives. Try his way, list a question. Why do leaves curl? Chase it with, watch one dry. Mix art and reason, sketch it, measure it. Tools like brilliant echo him, turning math or flight into tasks you solve. I've toyed with their hydraulics lessons, listing test of flow 15 minutes daily. Dive in at brilliant.org/newsthink. Free for 30 days, 20% off a year. Link below. Leonardo's lesson. Ask, fail, try again. From Vinci's hills to France's manor, he listed his way to immortality. For Newsthink, I'm Cindy Palm. Thanks for watching.